to another episode of TenNapel Tuesday. I'm actually in my work office right now because I just finished song leading and I figured I'd come over here, get some video stuff done. It's just been a catch-up type of week, trying to get everything situated. I've got behind me the book we've been discussing. And just so you guys know, as we continue here on TenNapel Tuesday, I've been promoting Doug TenNapel and Exile and the YouTube channels and all the things that go along with that. And the fun thing is, he got canceled. And so his Doug TenNapel and Exile channel got wiped out. His Doug TenNapel and Exile archives got wiped out. And so he's moved his political stuff to his art page. And then he's continued his art page and moved that one over elsewhere. And so if you're into Doug TenNapel's art, which I am, you just keep following him from place to place to place to place. And so his political stuff is now moved to where his art channel was, and his art channel's been moved again. And so if you're keeping up with any of this, it's an interesting encounter. So again, I was introduced to Doug TenNapel back when I was a kid. I wasn't conscious of that fact. And when I was a kid, I used to play Earthworm Jim. Loved the game. I've already done a review or two on some of the levels, and so you can go check that out there. I'm still waiting on the comics. The box hasn't come in yet due to all sorts of complexities. So I will do the unboxing when that arrives, Lord willing, soon. But we'll see. But I do still have just this absolutely beautiful piece of artwork here, and you can't see it. It's just above me on my marker board. But I have the artwork from the inside as the magnet, and I've shown that on a previous episode. And so Doug TenNapel has gone through a really interesting year. He's gone through a really interesting year. If you hear weird noises off the side, my son is in here with me. We just went down to do song leading, and then we're wandering back. Now, this book is, again, just something that's really, really neat as we go through it. And last week what we were doing is we were looking at this idea of comparing specifics with specifics and generalities with generalities. I think that's an unbelievably important principle to get if you can grasp the concept that when you have specific illustrations, it doesn't nullify the whole thing. Now, Doug TenNapel is known for his art. I've shown you most of the pages in this book, it feels like. But again, let me just show you this. Again, they're just gorgeous black and white double page spreads. I mean, it's just good. I'll show you what it looks like in color when I get those comics. But again, he's a black and white artist. Now, one of the articles that he recently did is something called The First Artist. Now, this is really, really cool because what it does is it's talking about these cave paintings. And deep down in these cave paintings, you will find art, and they're categorized as being some of the earliest art. And one of the things that anthropologists love to do is they love to say that everything's religiously motivated. And so again, he goes into this. He says, there are drawings of clearly human figures on the wall. One of man's earliest self-portraits we have on record, because the selfie would take too long. There are transcendent images of odd shapes, assumed to be some sort of religious iconography. They were religious, as G.K. Chesterton makes this point in his book, The Everlasting Man, that the two things we know about the earliest humans was that they were artists and that they were religious. Now, so let me read it from his thing. He says, the paintings of bulls have little ankle bones just above the hooves. He knew what a bull looked like. It's not photoreal, and he clearly couldn't pull the bull into the cave and use it as a reference. So it was drawn from memory. But the hump on the animal's back's where it should be. The hair patterns follow the anatomy of bulls. And while we don't know what the colors were specifically, we can actually pretty much guess because of the pigments left behind. He could have splattered animal blood to make it red, but he didn't. He was more like a scientist. He ground up iron oxide and hematite. And so you've got these scientists who are looking at this stuff going, we know how we got that red color. I call this early artist a cartoonist because the animals are exaggerated. They're cartoony. He isn't drawing to be perfectly accurate. He's expressing the way a bull feels. And that's what I find really neat about art. And one of my favorite pieces of art in here, and I hope he sells it one of these days because I just want this on my wall. It's an art piece of Earthworm Jim in all of his technological glory. And it's showing how the inside of the suit works. And so I don't know if you've ever played Earthworm Jim and you've kind of wondered, how does that work? Like, how is he operating that? You know, when the suit grabs him and uses him as a whip, how does that all work? And yep, so you've got it right there, and it's showing you how the whole system works. Now, why do we care so much about art? Well, G.K. Chesterton points this one out again. He says, morality, like art, consists in drawing a line somewhere. And so if you think about the principles of art, where you have a big white canvas and you just got to draw a line somewhere, that's pretty much morality. Now, the interesting thing about this is, whose morality are you going to take? Are you going to take man's morality, which shifts and changes and get some crazy stuff going on? Or are you going to take a transcendent deity who can tell you what's right and wrong? I'm going to go with the deity. But again, I think it's really, really powerful stuff here. Again, as far as we can tell, that early artist came out fully formed. If I were to draw you a stick figure, it would look just like any other person's drawing of a stick figure. The reason why I don't think there is such a thing as evolution in art is I think that man's mind, if man's mind was much simpler, he would lose the ability to make a mark on paper. Once that man has a conscience, he can make anything from a stick man to Michelangelo's David. Take away the divine spark from that man and you've got a monkey throwing poop. So at least he can still have a career in a modern art museum. And I do find it funny, just to comment on some of his stuff here. It's amazing how when Christianity has an impact, or at least religion, if we don't want to say Christianity, when religion and Christianity has an impact, look at the art that is produced. Look at the grandeur. Look at the sweeping cathedrals. Look at the things that are directed to God, push the eyes upward. But then look at what happens when mankind gives into his basest instincts. And you look at this with some of the polytheistic religions of the past, some of the animalistic religions, some of the atheistic religions, if you can say that. What does the art look like? What is modern art? It's basically the idea of there are no standards. Do what you want. And then you've got artists who have a crucifix in a jar of pee or poop. It's gross. It's grotesque. And so there is something beautiful about art. There's something beautiful about art that is rooted in theology. And that's why I think we have to have our art rooted in theology. I'm a fan of all sorts of works. I just finished reading Alita Battle Angel, the whole manga there. It's got some issues. I might do a whole review series on it, on what a Christian should think about something like Alita. But it's beautiful. It's got some really beautiful stuff. It's got some grotesque stuff. But I think it's a piece of art. And it actually has structure and has substance to it. And I don't know what the theology of the man is. I'll talk about some of the theological principles when we get there. But I even look at things like Full Metal Alchemist and some of those graphic novels and those mangas and some of those things where there's something special about them. They're not just poop smeared on a canvas. There's something special there. And I'm not saying I agree with everything that's in them. Obviously not. But just as we would say, hey, there is something transcendent about the divine. And that divine has done a number on us humans. I think we have to be able to recognize good art from bad. I think there's some definite objective principles at work here. I'll just conclude with what he said. He says, I guess what I'm saying is drawing a modern character isn't something new, but more like something very old. Earthworm Jim may not stand the test of time. One can only dream of having work read 17,000 years away from now. But I wouldn't even have a chance if I didn't start by drawing the simplest of lines. If you can't fail or succeed, it means you haven't tried at all. And a lot of people live in shame and embarrassment, and they're just afraid to try new things, or they're afraid of the mockery they're going to get for trying a new thing. Try. That's all you can do, is try. And that's what it is. Guys, thank you for joining me here on the TenNapel Tuesday. Hope you guys enjoyed. Again, we're continuing our work through this beautiful, beautiful work right here. And welcome to the office.